Hey y'all, welcome to my mini series, The Process Chat, where I bring conversations about getting started in business, exit planning, and everything in between. I'm Adriana, your operationals guide to helping you build processes so you can focus on progress. Today's episode is about what is holding back your team's performance. So before I dive in, this is not something where we are going to be trash talking people that may not be a fit for the company for who knows what. We are just going to be focusing on what you can do to prepare your team and just hopefully do your best when hiring the right people. All right, so to get started, we are going to dive into policies. So whenever, we'll back up. So when you're starting from the beginning of business building or building out a team, everything is based off of the rules you make for yourself in business. So as a business owner, you're coming up with literally everything. So like down to the uniform, how people should work, all that stuff. It all starts here. So like if you're somebody that's coming into a company that has like the policies already written in places, it's a little bit easier, but there still needs to be wiggle room on how things are done. And especially if you're in a leadership position, you are in charge of making sure the rules set in the business are carried out. So like if you're somebody that says that you're like a human focused business, but like you're doing these AI interviews, it's not going to make sense. So like you want to make sure the rules and the values, there's the word I'm looking for, the values that you have set inside your business actually fall in line with everything that you're doing. So the values you have set play a role in the rules that you set inside your business and also how you conduct business. So everything starts off with not the policy. Everything starts off with the values. That's what I wanted to lead with. And I said boundaries first, policies first. So we're going to pretend, I didn't say that. We're going to say, pretend, we'll scratch it out. Like it does play a role, but like honestly, the values that you have set inside yourself, inside the business, that is what is influencing like the policies, the rules, I call it rules, but policies, and the steps that you take inside business. So everything starts off with the values and carries off from there. So that is the first thing before we like really dive in. So if you are somebody that wants to have like your team involved, or you want to conduct like this, I don't want to say magical, but I hate using the word family, but like you want things to be seen as a family, whatever verbiage you want to use or feelings you want your team to have, it needs to start off with the values you have set out your company, and also your processes and your policies need to match what those values are. So if they don't, and you're trying to do one thing, but things are happening another way, that's why, because they just don't align. So everything that you come up with in the beginning, even though it may seem like hard work, like the setting boundaries and all that stuff, all of that does play a role and that does influence your future decisions. So like all this to say, make sure that whatever your values are, like in business or even like in your home life, whatever values you have, it is portrayed the way you lead inside business or your roles and stuff. So there's that. You lead with that. The next thing, so whenever you're building out a team, again, all of that makes up that. So you want to make sure everything aligns. So the next thing I feel like is one of the most important is having tough conversations. So we're talking about what's holding back your team's performance. So your team doesn't know what you don't tell them. And I see this a lot. And I've actually been through this too, especially when I had like my agency. So like I'll share my story real quick. And if you relate to that, just let me know. But so in the beginning of me running a business and running an agency, I used to hire people, but the thing was I didn't have clear systems in place, like how we operate. So like I didn't have clear values, I didn't have clear policies, I didn't really have any of that. Like I had things I knew how I wanted things done inside of my head. So of course, y'all know if it's not on documentation, like if it's not documented, like people can't follow it, you can't do anything with that. So everything pretty much lived inside my head. So I knew how I wanted things to run. My team didn't know how things wanted things, like how I wanted things ran. So like, number one, you want to make sure that you have this document. But if you don't have it documented, you need to at least have everybody on the same page. So like having meetings, which I learned down the line was very helpful. But in the beginning, you have to make sure that you speak up. So like if you see something not being done to your liking, you have to speak up about that. Like if somebody's not following the policies that you have set, you need to speak up about that. Sometimes we like to tiptoe around, and I'll even say for like myself, it was very awkward for me to confront people about some of the processes, because like I didn't have like the documentation piece, but like it still was just like I still have to speak up about this because it still falls in line with how we're running the business and everything. So you have to have the tough conversations with your team, no matter how awkward it may seem like. And this is where like having an HR professional in your back pocket is really helpful. So that way they can kind of help you guide the conversation. That's something I wish I knew in the beginning, because I feel like that would have saved a lot of headache. And I was not always the best person, the best communicator either in business. So I have stories to tell, but I'm not gonna share it here. So like I'll share them in like networking circles and stuff, but I'm not gonna share it. But anyway, but overall, you need to make sure you're having the tough conversations. So like if someone's not up to the standard that you want set like across the board, you have to speak up about that. And of course, you want to make sure following up, you have that stuff documented so that way other people can follow that, which we're gonna get into in just a moment. Um, yeah, overall, talk to your people. These are people. Things are not always going to be perfect, but you need to make sure you're actually expressing that, because people will sit here, they'll get mad. People may need to get fired. They'll let leadership ruin circles, teams, and stuff because they don't want to speak up. They may, I don't know, whatever the reason is, you have to speak up about it. So if you see something going on, speak up. That's pretty much all it is to it for that one. So there's that. And the third thing I want to cover, documenting your systems. So I've done quite a bit of videos talking about systems, so I'm not going to go into the full breakdown into this video, but I do want to say as a refresher, so systems are nothing more than your processes. Like, so all the steps that you do inside your business or in your role, that is your system. And you just break it up by, does it fall into sales? Does it fall into marketing? Like, is this client retention? Like, it just depends. So it all falls under some kind of pillar. So all the tasks that you're doing, your to-do list, all that stuff, they are a part of your system, whether it's organized or not. So when you have a team, so like we're kind of going to skip around a little bit. So when you get your team, like I mentioned in the beginning, your values influence your policies and your processes. So your policies, again, the rules and the processes are the step-by-step actions that you take. So you need to, of course, have these things documented. And when you're coming to documenting the systems, you want to make sure you document the things that are actually done inside the business. Because like sometimes we'll create rules, or like we'll create these fake, maybe not fake, like ideal processes that you want done. But if you're not living by them and you're not actively doing them, it's hard to implement them because it's not something that is actually done. So like one, you want to document your system, because like documentation, like if it's not written down, it doesn't exist. So there's that. But you also want to make sure you're documenting your current system so that way people can follow and y'all can make adjustments that way. Because of course, systems grow as you grow. So it's not going to stay the same, but you want to make sure you have something documented for your team to actually follow. And not one of the things that people struggle with is making sure people are actually following along with the task, because like again, you can't follow what's not in place. So whenever, what I want to say, so whenever you're having people try to follow along with certain things, it just doesn't make sense because it's not done. And the main thing I want to put here is, or say here, is make sure you're documenting things that you're doing. And if it's something that you want to get done, it falls back into making sure you actually communicate that with your team. So the main thing when it comes back to like team performance is just making sure that your values along with your policies and processes, making sure you're actually communicating. So like even if that means having tough conversations, someone's not doing something to your liking, someone is tainting the team because they're just toxic, and holding on to toxic people inside the workforce can can ruin a whole lot of things. So like there's that. And then when it comes to the systems are things that we are currently doing on a repeated basis. So like if you're not doing something on a repeated basis, it's not going to make sense for you to have it documented, having people to follow, because it's not something that's real. If y'all follow me. So it's like, it's not real because you're not doing them. And systems are nothing more than what you're actually doing inside business. So you have that. So make sure you're documenting the systems that you guys are doing, because at the end of the day, business is nothing more than a bunch of repeated processes that someone else is following. And it honestly does not matter who follows it, ideally. Ideally. So you want to make sure you have that stuff documented, so that way, one, it exists, and two, people can actually follow them. And as long as you're following the rest of the flow that I mentioned, like making sure the values align with your policies and processes, because again, you can pull stuff out of thin air, but everything is based off how you're living as an individual in the leadership position and how you want things ran. And of course, the documentation, like what you guys are actually doing. So like, unless all that stuff aligns, it's going to be really hard to have your team move forward, because things aren't flowing the way they need to. And let's say that you actually did all that. A lot of times this stuff just hasn't been updated. So like there's that, like these things have to be updated on a continuous basis, depending on how often they're repeated. Some things can kind of stay, some things probably don't, but like you want to make sure you have something in place that makes sure that stuff's updated, because when your systems are haven't evolved with you, it does cause a bottleneck, or like your team doesn't, it may look like your team's not performing, but it's just more so it just needs to be updated. So hopefully that helped a little bit. I try to keep it straight to the point and quick, but if you want more, feel free to ask any questions about that and I'll happily answer them. So we're going to get to the recap of this episode. Again, everything falls off the values. I have to say this again, everything falls off how your values as an individual in the leadership position. So whether you're a business owner, you're leading a team, doesn't matter. Whatever your values are, and if you're repping a company, whatever their values are, that's what you should be following when it comes to creating the policies and processes. If it's something that you guys need to change, then yes, you're going to have to update all of the processes, maybe not all. You're going to have to update your policies and processes to reflect that, because at the end of the day, all of that stuff is based off of that. Make sure you're actually talking to your team, no matter how difficult the conversation may be, and make sure you are documenting, because that is how things are alive. Like that's how things are real, like when you actually document them and people can actually follow along with them. So that's the recap. Again, have any questions about this, I will be more than happy to answer. Next week, I think we are talking about how to build a team environment. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. If you are watching this before May 24th and you are planning to hire in the near future, I have a workshop coming up Saturday, May 24th at 11 a.m. This is more so for business owners, but anyone can really come and get some of the advice when it comes to building things out. Feel free to ask me questions. If you are on LinkedIn watching this, I will put the link in in the comments. And if you are watching this on YouTube, I will make sure, or somewhere else, most likely YouTube, I think. I will make sure I put that in the description for that. This is probably going to be my last workshop for this particular topic for a little while. So feel free to make sure to catch that. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I have you. I think that's pretty much it. So there's a workshop May 24th. If you have any questions about this, feel free to leave comments. I love getting messages about your guys' feedback. The YouTube comments, they have been awesome. So that makes me feel really good that you guys are actually watching it. If you have any other topics you'd like for me to cover, let me know that as well. And if you are a company watching this and you feel like you can benefit from having your systems improved, feel free to talk to me. Usually start off with a scalable success audit. That's a free 15-minute audit where we just kind of walk through and talk through your problem areas. And I just give solutions, whether you do it yourself, give it to your team, or we work together one-on-one. So there's that. I will see you guys next week.